Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're getting into the story of Wah Kee, or Tier.
Right, this secret society. Fascinating history.
Yeah, roots way back in the 19th century, Singapore, Malaysia. We've got some sources looking at where they came from, what they did, and sort of where they are now. The idea is really to understand, how they evolved, their impact.
And what's really interesting right off the bat is how interconnected it all seems from the beginning.
How so?
Well, founded back in the 1800s, you mentioned Singapore and Malaysia, specifically Chinatown.
Okay.
The key founder mentioned for Singapore is Sugankhwa.
Sugankhwa, right.
But it wasn't just him acting alone. It seems like there are parallel movements.
Ah, okay. So like coordinated or just happening at the same time.
Hard to say definitively coordinated from this, but you had Zhao Genheng setting up Gengji in Guangzhou, China.
Okay, in China.
And Gran Fusheng starting Shengji over in Thailand.
Thailand too.
And even Zhang Shengji with Gigi in Vietnam.
Wow. So multiple founders, multiple related groups, all around the same sort of time period?
Exactly. That simultaneous start across major port cities, it kind of suggests they were maybe leveraging those existing trade routes, migrant networks,
Makes sense. Tapping into what was already there. Seems quite strategic, actually.
Yeah, more than just a local club popping up. It hints at, well, maybe a bigger picture right from the start. Cross-border thinking.
Okay, so moving forward a bit in time, the 1950s, things seem to have gotten more public. At least in certain areas.
That's right. The source mentions the Benting area specifically, operating quite openly, apparently.
Openly? How open?
To the point where there was reportedly even a member on the local council.
Seriously?
On the council.
And perhaps even more surprisingly, there was mention in Parliament.
In the Malaysian parliament?
Yeah, by a politician named Dr. Srinivasagam. He apparently brought up alleged connections between Wah Kee and the Malaysian Chinese Association.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty bold. What does that tell us if it's being discussed in Parliament? Well, it suggests it wasn't just some hidden underground thing at that point, at least not entirely, or not in that specific place. It was visible enough to be a matter of public discussion, even political discussion.
Maybe a sign of influence, or maybe just notoriety.
Could be either or both. It certainly shows they were a known entity, a factor in the local landscape.
Right. Let's jump to their footprint today. Geographically, where are they?
Well, they're still reportedly present in Chinatown, Singapore. That link to the origins remains.
Okay, still there.
But also significantly across Malaysia. We're talking Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Malacca, Penang, Pahang, Negeri Sembilan, even over in Sarawak, Perak. Quite a few places.
So a really substantial presence within Malaysia itself.
Definitely. But it doesn't stop there. The reach seems to be international now.
Oh, yeah? Where else?
The sources point to branches in Australia, Thailand, Vietnam, which links back to those early parallel groups, maybe China, Hong Kong.
Okay, Asia-Pacific covered.
And further afield. The United States, Canada, even New Zealand are mentioned.
That's genuinely global. How does a group like this, starting as a secret society, manage that kind of expansion?
That's the big question, isn't it? Maintaining cohesion and control across such distances and different legal environments, it's complex.
Which kind of leads into the nature of the group itself. It's called a secret society. But is it like the triads we often hear about?
Well, that's an interesting point raised by one source, the Philippine Center on Transnational Crime.
Okay, what do they say?
They suggest that Wah Kee might not operate exactly like a traditional triad. The structure or maybe the rituals might differ.
So not the standard model, perhaps.
Perhaps more adaptive or maybe just different priorities. However, the same source does connect them quite clearly to heroin trafficking in the region.
Right, so serious transnational crime is definitely part of the picture, according to this source.
Yes. And that focus on something like heroin trafficking, which is high profit, high risk, could definitely shape how they organize and where they operate. It might explain some of that international spread, hitting key points in the drug trade network.
Makes sense. And like any organization, I suppose, they have rivals.
Seems so. The sources specifically name the 24, 36, and 08 societies as rivals.
24, 36, 08. Does knowing the competition tell us anything more?
Oh, absolutely. Rivalries like these often define territory, recruitment pools, maybe even specific criminal markets they compete over. It shows they exist within a larger sort of underworld ecosystem. It's not just Wah Kee in isolation.
Right, they're part of a bigger, darker picture.
Exactly. Understanding those conflicts helps map out their sphere of influence and the pressures they face.
Okay, so let's try and quickly recap. We've got Wah Kee starting way back, 19th century, Singapore, Malaysia, but with these almost immediate sort of parallel branches elsewhere in Asia.
Early international links.
Then a period in the mid-20th century where they were surprisingly public in some areas, even getting mentioned in Parliament.
A very different phase, it seems.
And now, today, a really wide geographical spread, not just Malaysia and Singapore, but across the globe.
A truly international footprint.
And while the label secret society might be nuanced, maybe not a classic triad structure, according to some.
There are clear links drawn by sources to major organized crime, specifically heroin trafficking.
Yeah. So I guess the main takeaway is just how long-lived and adaptable this organization has been.
Absolutely. Surviving and even expanding over, what, more than a century and a half, through huge historical changes. That's remarkable in itself.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Seeing this kind of history, this evolution from local roots to a global network allegedly involved in serious crime. What does the sheer persistence of groups like Wah Kee tell us about, well, how social organization works, maybe? Both legitimate and illicit, across borders, across time.
It certainly makes you consider the underlying dynamics that allow such groups to endure and adapt.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.